Hey, Justin. I gave you the mic. Justin, you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Good. Yeah, so we're going to talk today about, because this is a whole week, my guess it's going to take also a few more weeks like this, few more parts to talk about the Iran-US deal or not deal agreement.
Yeah, it's going to go back and forwards many times over. I still think. I think that we're still at the very early stages.
Yeah, today there's supposed to be a meeting at Camp David with President Trump. What do you think they're going to talk about? What are the issues that they're going to be raised?
Well, I think that first of all, I think a lot of people need to understand when they say this is a Camp David meeting. This is not like your Camp David meeting that took place in the past. This is not some Iranian delegation that is there with Trump. This is an internal discussion. So it is concerned with what's going on right now in Iran. It's concerned with the Strait of Hormuz, the enriched uranium, ballistic missiles, all the issues that are on the table at the moment. But it's like I said, it's an internal discussion, internal deliberation between Trump and his administration. So whatever that means, it's very difficult to say because what they're talking to and basically having correspondence with the representatives from Iran, it's not a direct link, so to say. So, you have the Iranians have got their talking points, the Americans have got their talking points. Neither of them agree at the moment, and it doesn't seem like there will be an agreement coming down the pipeline anytime soon. But yeah, like I said, we have to see where this is going to go. I still think we're in for a number of weeks of backwards and forwards before we understand.
Yes, I'm reading from the news. So the White House was saying to Al Jazeera, which I don't know how this, agency still exists, Al Jazeera. So the White House is saying to Al Jazeera, President Trump will only agree to a deal that absolutely guarantees that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. But so far, if you think about it, that agreement didn't include the nuclear weapon. It talked about the uranium, Strait of Hormuz. It didn't speak about the nuclear weapon.
Well, that's another thing on that. When the war began, the nuclear weapons and or preventing Iran from reaching nuclear capability, and then from being able to produce or mass produce nuclear weapons, this was the core issue. This was the core issue, and then second issue was obviously preventing them from utilizing the weapon against any of the American allies, and obviously first and foremost, obviously Israel, which Israel has always had the warnings. They've been warning since the early 2010, even before that. So the problem is that the deal, I believe it's shifted. So it's no longer focused on, like you said, it's no longer focused on the ballistic missiles. It's no longer focused on the enriched uranium as much as it's focused on the Strait of Hormuz. And I think this is what the supposedly like trump card that the Iranians actually played. And that was they've shifted the entire goalpost, the entire strategy was they had an additional nuclear card, if you want to call it that. And that was basically choking the world's 20% of the world's oil and holding, the tankers ransom. So America came into this with the understanding that it was about ballistic missiles and preventing Iran from nuclear capability, and found out that they were dragged. They were dragged in a different direction, and now the primary focus is opening up the Strait of Hormuz, like Marco Rubio. I don't know, did you see Marco Rubio's statement yesterday about the Hormuz?
Yes, I did.
So, well, he was very, very strong about it. Like we mentioned, I think in the previous video, he actually said, that while Trump is negotiating and everything's on the table and it's going backwards and forwards and they're putting their talking points, Marco Rubio wasted no time. He came out twice. He met with the Quad, and they basically set up a new maritime security arrangement to ensure safe passage of oil to the various countries. I think India is the first benefactor of this deal, but he made it unequivocally clear that the Strait of Hormuz has to be opened, and he actually showed that it is actually the sticking point. It's the main sticking point of this entire issue. Now, obviously, that's not the main issue as far as Israel's concerns are, because Israel's concerns with this are many. And I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself or at the moment in this discussion, but I'll just say this, that the initial deal or the way that this is heading is definitely not a good deal. But we can also, or maybe you can talk about it as well from your perspective, being in Israel.
I'd like to refer, because it has a lot to do with what we talked about in part 1. Okay, so the White House says that the draft shown on Iranian television is incorrect. Now, this is what I said on part 1. Remember that you don't trust, I have to say it, you don't trust Muslims. The mediators here were Pakistan, also Qatar, Muslims, Taqiyya, deception. So it's like, who knows, what kind of draft the Pakistani made with the Americans, but what they made with the Iranians was completely different. You cannot.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, just you cannot trust them. And I'll tell you what I would do if you ask me. The RGC needs money, right? It needs money to buy drones, to buy ballistic missiles. It needs money for terrorism. Okay, it needs money to fund terrorism, to fund its proxies. And if I were President Trump, I would actually not open the Strait of Hormuz. I would strangle them economically. You make the civilian targets military targets. Because if you open the Strait of Hormuz, they can say, yeah, we're not going to charge anything. Everything was going to be for free, until they basically flip on you, like happened in Hudaybiyah, right, in the year 628, and they can do whatever they want. So you have to make, again, I emphasize it, change and make the civilian targets military targets, meaning make them suffer economically. And Strait of Hormuz must not ever be open. Must not open. If you open it, you lose, basically. Because this is their route to sell their oil and get money to fund their terrorism. You have to negotiate from a position of power, not weakness.
You're correct in what you're saying, however, there's a broader picture that Iran is having the luxury of, and that is they've got various routes that have opened up through countries like Pakistan, which basically maybe we're going to discuss this still, but which basically means that you have a conflict of interest, not just from the Islam perspective, both Iran and Pakistan being Islamic countries, but you also have oil routes over land via train and road that have been opened up from Iran to Pakistan. And you also have Iran having access to the Caspian to the north. and the Caspian is not monitored. You know, a lot of people don't understand this, but the United States or Western presence monitoring the Caspian Sea is not as significant as maybe in the Mediterranean or around the Persian Gulf at the moment, certainly, or maybe even in the Baltic, you know, with the war in Iran, in Ukraine. So you're right, they do need to be strangled. But when you look deeper into the situation, you actually find it very, very difficult to actually see how to strangle the situation in the correct way, how to apply the pressure in a meaningful way that would see ultimately potentially a regime change. And then again, what would regime change mean? What does it look like? Who rules? How do you get them to be amicable to the West? These are huge, huge questions. But I do agree with you on the fact that there needs to be a way to strangle them somehow. I'm not sure whether at the moment COG or one of these situations is going to actually be the final way to do it, even though COG is quite significant. But what they're doing with COG at the moment and with the other oil is they're basically diverting this oil. And I think a large portion of this oil is actually traveling via the Caspian. So I'm not sure. I know that certainly America and Israel, I can't imagine what it must be like from Israel's perspective or as an average Israeli person looking at this deal. I'm sure that, like I said, I'm sure that Israelis are for the most part saying that it's a bad deal. And I would tend to agree with them. The deal is shocking, in my opinion. I think that I would go back and I would definitely lobby the Americans to basically get behind the administration and to demand of the administration to do more, to bring more firepower to the region, to put more pressure. Like we said I said this in part 2 as well of our discussion, but they need to put an excessive amount of pressure on Iran if they hope to actually deter Iran from resurging, because already they're making statements saying death to America, death to Israel. They said that yesterday. Mushtaba said that it would remain the national cry of the Islamic Republic of Iran. So, as an Israeli, I'm not sure how you. It would make me absolutely mad, mad as hell, to have to listen to that, because you have had 40 years of this death cry, and there must come an end to it. And it's certainly not going to happen while you have Qatar and Pakistan as mediators, as Islamic mediators, with an Islamic country like the Islamic Republic of Iran, and then you have Western mindset leaders in the United States who are trying to approach this from a Western mindset. Maybe you can explain what the term, the language of the Middle East. Maybe you can elaborate this to the listeners so that they could understand that, you know, while the West speaks softly with a big stick, it's not accepted in the Middle East, because there's a different way to speak in the Middle East. You speak the language of the Middle East, which is I'll let you explain it on, but as the little I understand is that it's got to do with it's not so much your talking, but your actions, and you must be strong. So I'll let you explain that if you can.
Yeah, thank you. But first, I'd like to read something, and then from there, I'll explain. Okay. Trump said, quote, Iran will not receive sanctions relief even if it hands over enriched uranium, because now he had, I think, an hour ago, he had a press conference. So he said it. And he also said Saudi Arabia should join the Abraham Accords. Let me refer to it. See, I love President Trump. We all love him here in Israel. He's been good to us. So we hear many versions, you know, but we're trying to balance it and look at Trump's actions, not just, you know, words. We need to look at the actions. So far, there's just talking. Okay. Now, Pakistan, Qatar, They understand the name of the game. They know the name of the game. In Middle East, there is no gray. There is black and there is white. Okay? Let's say somebody steals in a Muslim country. Okay? They don't send him to prison. They ask him what hand stole, which one, if it's left or right. They put the hand under a truck, and the truck driver just goes over the hand, or they cut the hand. This is what they do in the Middle East. You have to understand, in a Muslim country, okay, a Muslim, not civilized country, because this is what they do. In the Middle East, you have to be strong. If you want to win, you take territory, you take land. This is the only language that they understand. So him saying about Iran, we just said it before the beginning of this space, that Iran has a different drafts. Americans saying that it has a different draft than what they have a draft. So already that there's somebody's lying here. And then President Trump said that Saudi Arabia should join the Abraham Accords. It won't happen. It's just a wishful thinking. It will never happen because of a certain answer, certain reason. They will never acknowledge Israel is it in its entirety, and also that Jerusalem is our capital city. Even when Somaliland said that it's going to transfer its embassy to Jerusalem, all the Gulf countries were against it. Why? They're Muslims. That's it. You don't believe Muslims. Once you believe Muslims, once you think that they're okay, this is the minute that you lose. And this is what the Iranians are doing to the states. It's a war of attrition. Even this agreement, it's attrition. It's like every time they keep saying yes, yes, but, yes, yes, but, somebody, and by the way, those, um, the people basically that Trump signed up to speak, Witkoff and Kushner, not good, because they have business with Qatar. Not good. Everything, the whole deal, all the bad players around Mr. Trump, they're not doing any good to the states, because even if we speak, trust me, the Iranians are waiting until Trump is no longer president, and then they will do what they do, and they don't need to send rockets or missiles to the states. They're already there. They've got more than 52 cells, dormant cells in the States as we speak. Now I'm reading the news. There is a report, I'm reading in Hebrew. There is a report that says something, there it is. Qatar had for 17 years, Qatar has been running a $65 million influence campaign for 17 years in an attempt to tilt U.S. education against Israel. That was according to a report. So they're already there. They're inside. Universities, schools, even how to train teachers. It's like the whole mindset of, and we see it now, the wokeness, the Democrats. It didn't happen overnight.
Well, I think if you just look at today, for instance, I think there was a Democrat nomination in Texas. And I believe the person believes that there are like 6 genders, this type of thing. So you're spot on with calling it out. But I mean, even if you refer back to before October the 7th, or at least when October the 7th happened, these people came out to the universities and they already had, all their banners, their tents, their basically the instruction manual of what to do. They were already gathering, I think, in New York the night before October 7th took place. So it's definitely well funded. It's organized, and places like Qatar, these people have always been involved in undermining Western society, whether it's Europe or Britain specifically, or whether it's the United States. But you know, coming back to what you mentioned about the Abraham Accords and recognition, Saudi Arabia basically already made a statement, said that they would not accept any kind of agreement or pathway to two-state solution, which, I'll add, this is the final solution. As far as anybody that believes in a two-state solution, it's basically, it's not that they want borders and land with Israel. It's that they want borders and land instead of Israel, so that there is no land for the Jewish people in their own ancestral homeland. So this is why they have the chant from the river to the sea, because they're basically covering the entire land of Israel.
Let's talk about it from the river to the sea, because if somebody is going to listen to this recording after this and is clueless, from the river to the sea, when you ask people who are pro-Pali, demonstrations, they know crap about what it means, what river, what sea. From the river to the sea, that means from the Jordan River until the Mediterranean Sea. That means the whole of Israel. From one border to another. So they want us out. Like I said to you yesterday, two-state solution will be the final solution. And no way in hell they're going to get a country. Why? Because they don't belong here. They're Egyptians or Jordanians. That's it. There are no Fakistinians. I mean, the whole terminology should be changed.
But I think at this, we had the optimal time on, to actually address that, especially with Trump and Netanyahu and both of the cabinets in Israel and in America. It was the prime time, so to say. I remember in Trump's first term, when he had Mike Pompeo as his foreign secretary, they were discussing Israel extending sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, which is the heartland, biblical heartland of Israel. It's historically Israel's territory. So I hope that maybe America can sort of move in that direction again. It would be something great to see. But, you're correct, Dom. I think the Americans are very, very naive in many ways. Not all, but there does seem to be a lot of people that basically don't know. I watched interviews where they brought people to the various campuses and they interviewed them. And when they asked them, I think people like Cam Higby took a mic to these campus protests, and he asked them and said to them, "What are you doing here?" And majority of them basically said that they didn't know why they were there. They were handed a flyer, they were handed a banner, they were paid a bit of money, and they were told to shout certain slogans. Those ones went home eventually, but then you were left with the dedicated people who believe that it's this God-given mandate to basically see the Jewish state eradicated, and that money for those people, this is where the funding from Qatar and outside actors basically is very, very evident. Yeah, it's actually atrocious. I think that if anything, it would be great to see America basically come to Israel's side and actually help them, say to them, they recognize the embassy of Jerusalem, or Jerusalem as the capital, eternal city of Israel. And it would be great to see America recognize the biblical heartland of Israel, being Judea and Samaria. But I don't know if we're close to that type of thing yet, because obviously the wars are still going on. Gaza, Lebanon, Iran. There's a lot. There's really a lot of friction points or points of conflict at the moment.
Yeah, listen, this is also, you gave me another idea for another podcast, but this is about the US, not about the Middle East. Trump is saying, so far we're not happy that there is no deal yet, but we'll be happy and we'll finish the job. We may have to go back and finish the job in Iran. Now, this is what I want to hear. They have to finish the job. Listen, IRGC will stay. One way or the other, it will be the same, people with the same ideology. I think Trump needs to make sure and, basically, that they will bring them to the Stone Age. Whoever will be after this new regime, this regime that Mujtaba, okay, they need to be left with no money at all, no means. By the way, I don't know if you remember, if you know, Reza Pahlavi, he asked Trump not to bomb the oil fields. He said it belongs to the people. Well, the people are with the regime. I wouldn't listen to him. I wouldn't listen. I would even bomb the oil.
I think this is the American sticking point. I think that the Americans, I think Trump is, in all sincerity, I think he's trying to do the exact opposite. I think that he's actually well aware of the situation. This is why his foreign minister, or his Ministry of Foreign Affairs, basically through Marco Rubio, stated that the Strait of Hormuz must open. It's an unequivocally, there's no question about that. That has to open. So it's going to be interesting because there have been threats. They said that there were some refueling tankers that left the Middle East and were returning to Europe. And then they made a turnaround statement and said that as quick as what they've returned to Europe, they could be redeployed and called upon and redeployed to the Middle East in a snap. So let's see what happens as far as any upcoming action. But the deals are definitely not going anywhere. And the two sides are way too far apart. There will be no agreement. Any agreement at this stage is just going to result in a bad agreement. And it makes
I'm reminding you, sorry, Justin, that the Gulf countries, the Muslim countries, asked Trump not to attack until the middle of the end now of May.
But we know why.
Yeah, we know why. Yeah, and we know that a lot of sheep are going to be slaughtered.
Exactly.
That's festive now. Anyway, so as we speak, there are trucks. I see pictures before me. There are trucks loaded with Coca-Cola bottles on the way to the Gaza Strip at the Kerem Shalom crossing. So anybody who says, genocide, hunger, starvation, whatever, BS. One big BS.
It is a law.
Of course. That's takia. You have to understand what takia is. And let's shift, okay, a little bit. I would like to speak, like I had the other monologue that I did before. Are there any good Muslims? Do you know the answer?
Well, let me explain. Well, the answer is no. The answer is no. The way I see it, or at least the way that should be understood at least, is that if you're a good Muslim, according to the Quran, it means you're an adherent to the teachings of the Quran. And basically the Quran is a book of violence and of prostitution, of pedophilia, of a number of various issues. And if you adhere to that, then you cannot be a good person. And the ones that don't adhere to that, their own community basically threatens them with death because they're not following the Quran. So is there a good Muslim? I'm saying, according to their own teachings, there's no good Muslim. It's not even outside people's perspective on it. And I think history.
Yeah, but sorry, Justin, again, but you have to understand something. We are not looking at if it's a good Muslim, what is a good Muslim from their eyes. You have to think about what the Western people, the clueless people, because there are clueless people in the West that think that they're good Muslims. Why? Because they think, oh, my neighbor is a Muslim. Okay, I'm just giving an example. Okay, my neighbor is a Muslim, but he doesn't participate in terror attacks. Well, guess what? He does. He does. Maybe not now, but when they will be a majority, and they will be a majority because again, like I said, Hamoud, Hamdan, Mahmoud, Hamed, all those, crappy names in the book, like Muhammad. Yeah, I'm glad you're laughing. It's good. Everyone has four Fatmas. Every Fatma has one child at least, okay, per year. That means per year, four children. Okay, so when they breed and they breed like rats, like cockroaches, who's going to be next? It's not going to be the Jews. It's going to be the other ones who are not Muslims. Then you will see them joining forces. Like I always say that um, what they think radical Muslim is about to kill you, the so-called moderate Muslim is going to hold you while the radical Muslim is killing you. That's it. That's the language of the Middle East. And people need to understand that. Those people that thinking that they're good Muslim, they better think again.
Well, I think that's the clarion call, isn't it? You mentioned about the birth rates, and this is why the West is in decline, because of birth rates. I think that if somehow Western society could put away this whole woke ideology, because a lot of people believe that it's dead, that it's gone. And I think that it's under the surface. It certainly was dealt a devastating blow, but it still exists. And you have leaders. You have leaders who don't have children themselves in Europe, like the European Union. They've never had families, and they hate their own culture. And they don't want to see their societies having children, being prosperous. And this is where, like you're saying, this is where Islam flourishes, because while Islam is having, I don't know what it is, it's an insane number. I mean, like you said, they're allowed to have four wives, and each wife just has four children. I think it's between four and five. Please correct me if I'm wrong on, but I think it's between four and five.
For formally, women, and also from the sides. If
Exactly.
about
This is the what do they call it, halala or something like this?
there's halala, there's muta.
Yeah,
Basically,
they legalized prostitution. Yeah.
yes, legalized prostitution. Yes.
So
It's marriage.
again,
Muta is a marriage even for 3 hours. You just basically need to buy her, I know, a shirt or a McDonald's, and that's it. You're married for 3 hours.
well, I'm gonna be scared to sit next to somebody and buy the McDonald's and then smile at them, because according to that teaching, I might just land myself married to 5 or 6 women. So, but I think that the West needs to wake up. Bottom line, I think, as far as that's concerned, they need to really understand that the leaders are not in their favor at the moment. They need to have families again. They need to go back to core family values, core Western values that are being pushed out or were pushed out. And I think that's the only counter to this insurgent of Islam in America and in Europe. You need to go back to biblical values, where the family unit is respected, and the respect for life. For instance, in the Ten Commandments, to not murder, to value life, to not commit adultery, these type of things. So if the West can somehow crawl out of this woke sort of slum that it's been wallowing in for the last decade, maybe longer, I don't know if they're going to be able to basically fight back, if they're going to be able to push back against this Islamic insurgency. And certainly history should remind everybody, what happened when the Mohammedans came to Southern Europe, and you ended up having the response to that was the Crusades. So history is repeating itself in many ways. And I don't know, there's so much going on at the moment. I think we could probably have 100 podcasts and never cover anything in detail. You sort of just touch on certain subjects, and hopefully people can understand, the message behind it.
I'd like to refer to Gaza. Remember that I spoke with you about the Board of Peace? Remember, Justin, I said it was a big failure?
It really was, and it still is. Yeah.
Okay, so let me read you something. The Gaza Peace Council is stuck. Why? The fund is empty, but, quote, millions flowed into unsupervised account. Who took the money? You have to really think about it. I'm reading more from the newspaper right now. The countries that joined the Gaza Peace Council promised to inject $17 billion into the body, but an investigation by the Financial Times reveals that the council's official fund is empty, and funds intended for it have been funneled into unsupervised account at J.P. Morgan. At the same time, senior American officials are having difficulty getting clear answers from the administration regarding the council's legal status, and hints of fear of illegal actions are already beginning to be heard in the background. So you have to ask yourself, what countries were supposed to be in Kiryat Gat here, the headquarters for the Board of Peace? Also Muslim countries. So
Well,
where's
that was what was.
so that's $17 billion. That money, let me tell you, my guess, goes to terrorism. We're going to get them back as missiles.
Yeah, it's terrible. It really is. When they were announcing that Board of Peace and they announced the actors, they said that Turkey would be sending soldiers, and various Gulf nations, Saudi Arabia, I think, was also there. It's all of this is so very strange because they all have conflict of interest. I mean, they all want to see Israel weakened or destroyed. They all want to see the West diminished, and then you have this Board of Peace set up arrangement where the very people who want to destroy you are brought to the area to come and keep the peace, so to say. It's something that is actually very, very difficult to try to comprehend, and what the reason is, what was the political insight into making those decisions. And then, like you say, now you have the fraud, you have the corruption taking place, the money's vanished. As you said, who's the money going to go to? Does the money land up in Egypt? Does it come back to you as rockets? It's unfathomable. It's very difficult to try to understand as an outside, as an outsider. How did Israel even allow that to take place? I'm
Well,
not trying to criticize Israel, but
instead of
strange.
them having their own, forces in Gaza, okay, and keeping the so-called peace, okay, our soldiers are now there everywhere in Gaza. And every minute, this is why we pray the Tehillim. We pray for our soldiers every day. I do it. I've been doing this ever since October 7th. Because for us, every soldier is a flower. Life is sacred. If you look at the 10 Commandments, okay, you've got 5 and 5, right? First 5 is do's. The other 5 is don'ts. The first one of the don'ts is do not murder. The first one. So, what can I say? IDF spokesperson in Arabic said right now to the entire people of South Lebanon, we, quote, we advise you to get evacuated to the north. Because yesterday and today, let me tell you, nonstop, people of the north are really suffering.
But if I can make a caveat quickly just so that the people understand as well that are listening. When they say that Hezbollah is acting against Israel, it's not two formal armies that are going up against each other. Hezbollah doesn't want to go after Israeli soldiers. Hezbollah's main targets predominantly are innocent Israeli civilians. So, for instance, there was a bus, I believe, that was targeted with a FPV drone, and there was some miracle where it was delayed or the children had gotten off the bus. But had it been minutes earlier, that drone would have hit that bus, and there would have been many civilians. So it's people need to understand that when you hear the type of what you just read about making evacuation orders for civilians to leave, maybe not everybody understands this, but if Israel doesn't do this, it's not even just the warning time for the rockets, but it's about actual terrorists literally living meters away from you. And when you go to bed that night, they come storming across the border and they come to attack you and your family and loved ones. And this is why Israel has to naturally, any society would demand this of their government, because it's the government's responsibility to provide security and safety for their civilians. This is the mandate of a government. If a government doesn't do this, it has failed that society. So it must put a buffer zone. So it's great. It is a good thing to hear that Israel is setting up buffer zones in Lebanon, and the deeper the better. I believe they've pushed them. It was originally the Litani River, and I believe it's now up to the Zahrani River, but they're still attempting to come back. The Hezbollah is still attempting to come south and to engage with civilians via FPV drones, via Cornet missiles, and then obviously engaging with the IDF. The IDF didn't ask for that war. Sorry, you can go ahead.
I'm just reminding for those who didn't listen to our space yesterday, ever since yesterday, there is a new guideline. So let's say, that they can actually come here to the south from Lebanon with their missiles. So one time we had a missile from Lebanon, but we didn't get initial warning in the south. I live in Ashkelon, 20 minutes exactly drive from Gaza, 5-minute aerial time. So it was night. We didn't get warning. We had only 30 seconds to go for shelter. Thank God I've got a safe room in the house, but those who don't, they have to go either to the staircase or go outside to a public shelter. So now they give more time. So I have, in the south, we have, if it's from Lebanon, 2 minutes warning. If it's in the center, 1 minute. And if it's on the confrontation line, sorry. So it's going to be a little bit less, but they will have initial warning, because before that they only had 15 seconds. It's nothing on the border, nothing.
You can't live like that. No society can live like that. So again, there may be a lot of criticism. Every time Israel does something like this, you always see the criticism in the news. So Israel is uplifting entire societies. In actual fact, if Israel doesn't uplift, remember something. Israel is moving those people also, and they don't have to. Historical wars that have been fought never ever did half of what Israel does with the roof knocks and warning, giving prior warning to your enemy that you're actually coming to come and bomb an area. In other words, you're giving them forewarning to move their equipment and to survive. And as far as the civilians goes, Israel cares more about the civilians of Gaza and the civilians of Lebanon than what the Lebanese government or the Gazans themselves. And I think that Western society needs to basically hear this, and they need to understand that Israel is probably the most moral army that exists, second to the United States. But, or at least Israel first and then the United States, in my opinion.
Exactly. Not second to.
Hey, Ram, are you doing well?
Yes, thanks. I'm doing well.
Great to hear.
You?
Like I mentioned, so much stuff going on.
We have here Ebony from India, I believe.
Yes.
Shalom.
Shalom. My mom is a Jew, so
Indians understand us. They understand us. They know what Islam is.
yeah, I'm a Christian. My mom is a Jew, so I'm part Jewish. Yeah, but we are Christians. I'm following Pentecost. I'm baptized, but still I support and pray for Israel every single day. And all my accounts, I follow with FB, WhatsApp, or X. I created more and more account just to support and upload from FB and support here. That's all I could do. Just pray, uh, RT, and more upload pictures. I don't care what they say. All I can do is pray. Nothing else. It breaks my heart to see these insufferable terrorists doing these things to children. I have a baby niece. She's 6. Now I have a new baby niece. She's born on March 3rd. It's a girl, Siona. When I see their face and when I see children being murdered, innocent children, I wish I could just erase all this virus that's an Islam terrorist. All I could do is I'm in India. I can pray, safety for all of you. That's all I can do.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's all we need. You pray, and Moody is okay with our prime minister. That's good.
It's stupid. I mean, as a human being with a brain, everyone should know you are just being protecting yourself. And if you attack against 2 billion, 15 billions, and 2 million Jews, even with people with a pea brain would understand who is the villain here. But I don't know why people are so stupid.
Yeah, but it's just like I said before. They think that those people who are quiet on the streets, silence, they do nothing. They think it's in terms like, oh, they didn't participate in any, terror attack. But they have to ask themselves, number one, did you see any Muslim, so-called good Muslim, condemning October 7th? No. Did you see any Muslim condemning any terror attacks on Christmas market? No. No, because there are no good Muslims. A good Muslim is either an ex-Muslim or a dead one, I'm sorry to say.
They just curse every day for Christians and Jews to die. They all want to murder every one of us. They call us infidels. That means they're a terrorist cult. That's not a religion. They're terrorists, each and every single one of them. That's not a culture. That's a terrorist group. Each and every single. Say Islam means terrorism. People, there are no good or bad Islam. All each and every one of them are pedophiles, rapists, ugly creatures. All they do is they try to destroy Israel. They try to destroy every human beings, especially Christians and Israel. They want us to be destroyed from this earth. People are blind to that truth.
Ebony, I think that, people countries, okay, that they're more atheist and they forgot the Bible, the Ten Commandments at least. In those places, if you see, like you see the UK, France, Belgium, Sweden, Norway, all these countries, also New York, people forgot the values. In those places, you see Islam. So people need to think again, to think, go and do the good thing, good values.
Why are they why are they silent about them murdering their own Muslims? I mean, they are mass murdering their own brothers and sisters, and they are silent about it. Why is they are biased and actually forgetting about uh, a Muslim part that actually murdering other Muslims, and they are silent, and they attack Israel just for protecting their citizens. What's so weird about that?
Yes, there are many, many crimes in the Muslim society. Many attacks. Like they kill one another, honor killing. It's every day. Every day you see on the news. So the Iranian television reports that he got a quote first and not official draft for the agreement with the United States. Let's see what they say. We know that they can be liars, okay? So that's what I said, we have to judge, what's going on according to the actions of the players. So Iranian TV reports that it has obtained a, quote, preliminary and unofficial draft of the framework agreement with the U.S. According to the report, the agreement stipulates that the U.S. will withdraw its forces from the Iranian region and lift the naval blockade on Iran. Iranian TV reports that in return, Iran will allow the resumption of traffic in the Strait of Hormuz and return the navigation levels into the route to those before the war, but emphasizes that military ships are not included in the agreement. Yeah.
Well,
So
again,
what do you
on
have to
this,
say about this?
again, on this memorandum of understanding that's been given, this is an initial, as you said, this is the initial MOU, but even before it was submitted, the Iranians already made their statement. They said, we don't discuss anything, because they said they want to maintain sovereignty over Hormuz. They said it's not non-negotiable. And America is saying, open up the Strait of Hormuz, it's non-negotiable. And Iran is saying that they will not transfer the enriched uranium. America is saying, you will transfer the enriched uranium. Again, the Iranians are smart in the sense that, they will use every single excuse. For instance, America will demand them to hand over the enriched uranium. And then they will say no, so America will bomb. And then they will turn around and they will say to America, okay, we can't hand over the enriched uranium now because you bombed. And then the Americans, they will invite the Americans and say, come and help us find it. Because every single step is basically a delay tactic. Everything with them is talks about talks. So they're masters at this. And I don't think anything's going to come about from this memorandum of understanding.
Justin, they're masters at this because we let them. We let them.
Exactly.
The leader should say, and Ram knows that, okay, and I know that, people from the Middle East know it. You do not say, do this, do that. No, you said like, that's it, put your foot down. You give it to us now. Yes or no? No, but. Yes or no? No. Okay, first day that there is no answer, you bomb them. Second day, no answer, you bomb them again. This is the only language that they understand. You have to understand this. This is the Middle East. This is not America. Middle East, we've got different rules. And only who is the strongest survives. The one who takes lands survives. That's it. And make no mistakes, even the Bedouins here, they're the next threat.
There's a dumbass here, Justin, and it's not the Iranians. It's us.
I think I agree with you in many senses, Ram. I think that the West is very, very ignorant of this. You could basically put it, you said it's the language of the Middle East. In other words, power is respected. But I think it's, when I said that they're masters at this, they're masters at deception. They can spin and weave narratives and stories.
Because you let them. Justin, you let them. You don't need
to. But you know why?
Them. Because you have to change the perception, the way you see things. You have to understand what Islam is like, how it works.
Exactly. That's where I wanted to go with this.
That the people in front of them, hence, what's his name, Witkoff, Kushner, okay? When they see that the people there are weak, they basically, they say already, we're winning. We can do whatever we're gonna drive them crazy. I mean, why? If you think about it, how many months they've been having like talks with the West? How many months? A lot. Because they know how to bluff. And because they know that the West don't understand the language of the Middle East.
Well, again, the point that I was making was, and again, you mentioned it now the second time, and that is the belief, the faith of these people, what they believe. They taught to lie from young age, and it goes back for 1400 years. So this is why I'm saying the masters of deception. And if you ask yourself, where does this deception come from? Where does this teaching of lying come from? It's one of the core pillars. One of the core pillars of the tenets of Islam is to lie to advance or further the
Takia,
belief
takia,
of Islam.
been told
Exactly.
in their Quran, sorry, that a guy can lie to his wife. Okay, you can lie during a debate, and you can lie to your opponent during war. And this is a religious war, and the West does not understand this. We are in a religious war.
Justin, let's pretend you're a Muslim and you are taught by your religion that you are superior to other people, and you grow the sense of that your community, your people are better people than the others, and the others are basically beneath you, like a second class citizen to you, like a third class citizen to you. And now I come to you, non Muslim, I come to you to negotiate. How do you think of me? What do you think of me?
Well, firstly, there's
When I
no
could,
balance because there's no respect.
right, when I could hurt you, yet I come to you in peace and I negotiate with you. What do you do? What do you think of me? You know what I mean? And this is what the West does not understand. Actually, that's being generous. They do understand. Some of them do. But I was thinking about this the other day. You know, anti-Semitism isn't only that you get the hate and it's obvious and you see it. Anti-Semitism comes with a smile sometimes. If I were a supporter of Israel and I saw the pain that they're in, would I have done the Board of Peace deal? Would I have even done that to them, to Israelis, if I really supported Israel? I probably wouldn't. This is why, this is what I mean by anti Semitism comes with a smile. Once you know what to look for, you can pretty much see it. Wherever you're looking for it, you'll see it. You'll see the attitude of tolerance at best. The attitude of tolerance. How would you like to be tolerated? Only tolerated. How do you like that? It's a terrible thing.
Even hearing about it feels awful. How can they do that?
Ebony, I missed it. What do you mean?
I mean, when you speak about it, I feel like the hypocrisy and what they're doing, it's not fair. How can they do that? Even if they
Right.
know everything and they are tolerating it, that's absolutely, I don't know, disgusting feeling. I am when I'm hearing about it. You know, they are tolerating this evilness. How? Why?
Tolerating in quotes, to be tolerant. It's tolerating is the wrong word I'm using. But the attitude of a person to another, that I tolerate somebody, means I don't really respect them. I tolerate them until I could not tolerate them or blow up in their face or whatever. How do you
I
treat
wish we
people
had
like
a
this?
block button in real life so we can block every Muslims.
Yeah. You know, I don't think I'll ever be I don't think I'll ever be past the October 8th type of person. I just saw what happened on October 7th, and I see before I heard what had happened in Israel, I saw the celebrations on Twitter. People were commenting like it was a feast, congratulating each other. Alhamdulillah, thank God, this, that, the other thing. I kept seeing those messages. I didn't know what they were about. Then quickly I found out what it was about. I didn't realize the extent of it until probably late in that day. I don't think I'll ever be not in an October 8th mood where Benjamin Netanyahu looked to me very somber and very hurt and knew immediately what needs to be done. I'm in that mood. I'm always in that mood. And to see some dickhead wasting time with Board of Peace and Qatar bullshit and deal with this and deal with that. What the fuck are you doing, you man?
Straight up
So,
erase everyone. That's
Let's
all.
wait for actions. Let's wait for actions. Not just talks. Let's
Erase them. That's all. No need for forgiveness. No need for peace. Just erase them. That's the real thing we need to do. There's no need to talk with terrorists. There's no need for peace. Just erase them from the roots. That's all it matters. How, how should we speak to a terrorist? Peace. How? That's not fair. Just kill them directly.
right. I was raised among them. Among in the Arafat years, in the well, not the Hezbollah years exactly, but in the Lebanon war business, and it's ingrained in me how they behave, what they react, what they do, what they say. It's ingrained in me. So what I see being done in Iran now, or in Gaza with the border peace business, is very upsetting to me. That the West is so dumb. And I can only conclude that it's, like I said before, it's part of the attitude towards Jews. That, in fact, it is what I said it is.
How many Nobel Prizes have any Muslims have? And count how many Nobel Prizes Jews have, how much they contributed to the society, the software we use, everything. Who invented it? Still inventing it. Who? Who is the number one and who is the smart one with few people and all of them, most of them, how many Nobel Prizes they got, how many contributions they have given to the society, and people are still saying this few people are the villains and the actual bully is the victim. How can they say that? How dumb are they?
She's right.
Guys, I think we had a good discussion today. What do you say, Justin? I'm very happy that Ebony spoke, and also Ram, obviously. I'm always happy, like yesterday, because I think people should, just they need to speak up. They need to show the world, because some people need to be educated. They need to know the truth. I'm sorry. They don't understand what they're like when you see people on our social media from the UK, okay, that they know what Islam is, and they say that they're good Muslims. I don't know how to. I don't know.
Bullshit, absolutely bullshit.
Yeah, exactly correctly.
There's no good cop or bad cop. They're all evil to the core. Like there's if there's a bug spray, we can use it just to erase that flies. I wish we could have a bug spray like that.
You know what the problem is? History tells the story. History tells the story. That's a major. History tells the story. It's recorded. History tells the story, and you ignore it. You don't know history, and you want to sit in judgment along with Islam and give it that authority over you. Mark
These
Stein
people
says,
protecting Islam, do they understand what Quran says? Have they translated it in English? If they read it, they would be absolutely disgusted by what they see. All they see is a pedophile doing all kind of evil deeds in his life. And what kind of bullshit is that? If you translate Quran in English, you can understand it, but they don't know anything and still supporting this stupid religion. Why?
there's a suburb in Paris called Saint Denis, Saint Denis, basically. There's a big cathedral there, and Charles Martel is buried there. Charles Martel was the hero of the War of 1789, where he repelled the Muslims invading. Mark Stein says about him that if Charles Martel were to step outside of the cathedral he's buried in, where he's buried, he would realize that he lost the war, not won it. Isn't that amazing?
Yep, it is. So I guess we just have to wait and see. I'm waiting for actions, not words.
We all are. We're all waiting with bated breath. Nothing's been correct in the world since that day, and we're all waiting. We're all waiting suspended. We're suspended.
Yeah. Guys, thank you for joining us today, being here on the third part. Like I said, there's going to be many parts for this saga. It's like a never-ending story. Thank you very much.
I hope I was a little bit more composed today than yesterday. Thank you,
Well, thank you, and I will see you
Thanks,
next time.
Justin.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ram, Ebony, Justin, and all our listeners. Thank you.
It's about 11 p.m. at night, 10:48 p.m. here. I'm about to sleep, but I wonder why I opened this app and wanted to click and heard this news, and I just automatically participated in it. Anyway, it was nice hearing from every one of you.
Well, thank you, Ebony. Good night to you.
You say you're about to give birth?
Who?
Ebony?
I'm single. My big brother have two kids. Eben C. Thomas. We are only two kids. He's married for 7 years and has two kids, and I'm single. I always want to be single forever because marriage means complication. I want to be single forever.
I thought
I'm
I heard you
happy that
say
I'm staying with my baby.
I'm about to give birth or something.
No. My sister already gave birth at March 3rd. We have another baby girl that is Siona. She's 2.5 months old now. Yeah, two
Okay,
girls.
good.
Joanna 6, Siona, new baby March 3rd, 2026. Yeah, I'm single.
Congratulations.
My big brother have two kids. Yeah.
Kids are a blessing. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. So I'll see you in my next space. And I wish you good
Thank
night.
you. Thank you, Om. Thank you, Ram.
Good night,
Thank you,
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.